I mean, we'll still do a pledge, and then,
I should wear your shoes today.
I don't even think, you have to have a meeting, or a quorum? You have to have a quorum to have a meeting, or just to
Well, that's
act on things?
Then we could form to act.
Right, we can't take any formal board action. Right. But you can, we can start, we'll do a pledge, that's what I'm saying, you can have the meeting, you just can't take any actions, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe so you don't have to listen to the pledge.
So, Nick, are we live then?
You're live.
Okay.
Sir.
All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Good evening and welcome everyone to the Brighton Area School Board of Education bond meeting. We are going to start this meeting. We do not yet have a quorum of the board, but this is a committee meeting. We will go ahead and get started, and we are anticipating at least one board member joining us a little later, at which point we'll have a quorum. But in the meantime, would everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So, for those of you who are following this online, currently Ms. Reed, Dr. Krebs, and I are present as board members. We have various members of our professional staff and consultants here to discuss the items that we have on our agenda for this bond meeting. The first of which is a presentation that we will be having regarding the purchase of the animatage table, and we have the video queued up at the back of the room. So Mr. Ingleter, if whoever wants to start off with the presentation of that, that'd be great.
Yeah, so unfortunately, our technology doesn't allow us at this time to stream it along with our stream. So we are going to ask the board members to move to the back of the room so that they can see the presentation, and we will return to the area where the live stream and the meeting will happen as soon as that is complete. We anticipate that being 15 to 20 minutes tops.
So are we live too for questions?
Yeah, it's a Zoom meeting. You won't necessarily see it. We'll read it. So, yeah, you've got three of our board members here. You're free to fire away.
Fantastic. Hi, and thank you all for taking a few minutes. I can certainly manage this presentation to whatever your time is or allows. I was planning for about 10 minutes and can field all the questions you might have at Bell. So 10 minutes is a very short period of time to show even a small amount of what the animatage table can do. So I'll give you a quick overview and then give you a quick show. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you great. Thank you.
Fantastic. So my name's Jeff Sweet. I'm with Animatage. We're based in Santa Clara, California, in Silicon Valley. We developed the first full life-size 3D virtual dissection table and released the first version of that in 2012-2013 school year. And Stanford University Medical School was our first customer, and we have grown from there to sites all over the world, and working from university medical schools to allied health programs, as colleges and universities, to now secondary programs, and in some areas even middle schools are implementing the technology. Really depends on the region. My region, I'm based out of Columbus, Ohio. I cover Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, and Kentucky. Currently sitting in Northern Kentucky, so I appreciate you letting me do this by Zoom. In that territory, really, just in the last year, have we seen a substantial adoption of the animatage table technology into secondary school programs. And a lot of those, or the majority for sure, are schools with allied health programs. So biomedical sciences, health science, nursing, pre-med, physician assisting, sports med, EMS, would be one of maybe 6 or 7 across the state that would have the table. On the other hand, if you cross the border into Northwest Ohio, you would see nearly every CTE, career and technical education program from Toledo to Dayton has a table just in the last year. So the adoption's happening very quickly right now, Northeast Indiana as well. So from a regional standpoint, that's kind of where we're at. The technology is amazing, and if you will let me, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and show that off a bit. So let me just share and see if you can see my screen here. So if you can see a cadaver there. Yeah, like you're seeing me. Oh, fantastic. So this is one of 4 full cadavers in the anatomy table. There are 2 male, 2 female, 2 Asian, 2 Caucasian, and 1 of each. So when these people, well, before they died, they donated their bodies to science. And when they passed away, they were frozen and their bodies were sliced into millimeter slices and a high resolution digital photograph taken at each point. That's about 1,000 plus slices, and it takes about a year to slice the body. So where this little thin red line is where the slice on the right is taking place. So everywhere from head to toe, we can see all those structures inside the body. And in fact, our software takes all those digital images and builds back a photorealistic 3D model that students can view in life size on a life-size table in sort of an operating room environment or a cadaver lab environment as you would have it, and build skills working respectfully with patients in a small group collaborative type environment like a team would do at a medical facility. So the process on our end after that year of slicing and photographing happens is another year to 2 years for our software to build back all the structures and make them into discrete structures, put all the organs back together, and that lets us then view all of the body in 3D. So we can see everything from any different angle, and we can highlight items and have the system tell us what they are, and we can dissect as well, cutting through the body in any different direction or in specific locations by volume if we want to do that. So as a quick note, I can go in and, as I mentioned, anything that I would click on, the system will tell me what that structure is. So the frontal bone, for instance, or if I go in and click on the radius, those bones will highlight. If I click on compass, I'm going to see that this is the left ilium, for instance. If I want to go in and highlight a certain structure, I could also click on that structure and see it in 3 dimensions relative to any other structure in the body. And if I want to set up lab practicals where my students would and see the different structures with pins placed in them and identify pin number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I can do that. Or if I want to color different bones, red, blue, green, yellow, orange, I can have them name the structures by different color, etc. More importantly, we can see in the body, by bringing back the whole thing, all of the pathology that relates to that cadaver or that person from when they were alive. So if I wanted to cut the body in half, for instance, I could apply a standard sagittal cut and I can adjust that anywhere along the body. And if I zoom in a little bit here, whoa, let's bring her back around. So if I want to highlight a certain area, I can do that a number of different ways. I mentioned I can color things. I could also use a pen tool and note specific situations like here or here, that the spinal tissue has been discolored where the lower arrow is, and the T1, T2 vertebrae have collapsed where the second arrow is, or the upper arrow. And those are the result of the gastric cancer that killed this person. want to focus on certain areas, I can do that using additional high-resolution regional scans of the body as well. So in this case, I'm going to bring in the beating heart just to show you some of the motion or animated features that are available in the model. So here we have the beating heart, and students can relate that to the EKG or the ECG on a scroll and see how the heart rate changes. We can adjust it down as low as 40 beats per minute or up as high as 150 beats per minute, for instance. And I can put it into slow motion if I wanted to as well. But even while it's moving, I could still dissect the heart. So I could go in and make a cut and look inside the heart at any given place along the structures and see what's inside there. Another way for me to do that would be for me to highlight a certain chamber, for instance, and remove one. So I could go in and remove the right ventricle, for instance, and now I can see the movement of the heart valves. I'm gonna bump it up a little bit to 85 beats per minute. And I can not only see the valves pumping, but also the conduction in the nerves around the ventricle, making the heart fire. So I can see all the different nodes and so forth. I mentioned that if I highlight a valve, for instance, I can make it go away, or I can give it a color. Let's go ahead and give this a fancy color, like this bright green, for instance. And so now I can close everything back up, give different pieces, different colors, and have the students come in and identify the structures, the blue, the green, the yellow, the red, and tell me what each of those are, or what's going on at a certain location, like pin number 1 or pin number 2. This is just one of many physiological functions that we can see in the system. We can see processes like digestion, respiration, how an epidural works, detailed blood flow from the kidneys to and from the kidneys, detailed urinary flow, deltoid intramuscular blood flow. We can see all sorts of different processes there. Cardiac catheterization procedures, how you would insert the catheter and remove the sleeve, run the catheter to the appropriate location to the heart, and inflate a balloon and retract the catheter, replace the stent and retract the catheter, etc. So in addition to those types of things, we also have muscle motion for the knee, the hip, the shoulder, and the eye, so you can see which muscles are involved in which movements and how those movements look and take place. So you can see the roll and glide in the joints and how the bones and the muscles interact during the motion process. So it's more than just a static system. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to minimize this and show you another. Let's just minimize this. Actually, I'll just go in and change it right now. So we'll take a minute to load the different cadaver piece. This kinesiology section was just rolled out with our latest update in the fall of last year, so around Thanksgiving. And like I said, it has the muscle motion for the knee, the hip, and the shoulder. And then in a separate section, we have muscle motion for the eye, along with how the eye changes with age, how placing a lens of different shapes will affect the vision on the eye chart. So students who are thinking about, possibly going into medicine or any allied med field, optometry, dentistry, ophthalmology, sports med, those are all a great fit for this sort of thing. So I'm working on a laptop here, and I have a number of different versions of the table running right now. This is my first one that I'm bringing up, so it's not loving how much load I'm putting on my laptop computer. And by the way, it's a very fancy laptop, but not nearly as big as the table computer. So the table computers are Windows 10 Pro computers that are custom built by us graphics capability and a lot of processing memory as well, so that they can handle the 3D data sets better. It does take, I mean, it's a lot of data, so it does take about 1 minute to 2 minutes to load the different cadaver data sets. And these physiology groups are based off of one or the other of the cadavers. So it does take a little bit. The good news is you can load them up and minimize them. So during class, you don't have to go through this. So I have a little strategy I usually cover, so I don't get stuck having to load something like that. But I just can't show everything in a short demo. So if we went to the knee, for instance, I can look at the full cadaver from any angle, and I can still look at each of the different structures, and they'll tell me what they are. But I can select one of the motions here. And once I choose the motion, I'm just going to zoom in a bit. And put that in motion. I could show this motion from any angle, so you can see, I can see how it's moving from any different angle, and I can run that backwards at my own pace, or I can run it as a video. And if I want to see how the muscles are working, I can click this little button here, and it'll show me which muscles are involved at which stage of the motion. It's also showing me the angle of the joint here. And so right now we're doing flexion. And so again, these are based right off of the same true cadaver tissue that we have animated essentially to show how the joints operate and muscles make those movements possible. Did that help for that one?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. In addition to the 4 cadavers and the 4 full animals that are in the table, there are those 2 male, 2 female human cadavers, and then there also is a full dog, cat, frog, and mouse. So for advanced biology and veterinary science, for students who are interested in working with animals, there are a lot of resources related to that as well. The dog, the cat, the frog, and the mouse, you can dissect pretty much the same as what we were just doing with the human. They were frozen and sliced, so we have all the organs segmented out. The dog and the cat are annotated, which means we've placed labels on all the organs. The frog and the mouse are not yet annotated. There also are over 1,500 clinical cases included with the system, and this is one of those. So this is a glioblastoma in a child, and there are hundreds of animal cases among those as well. So there are dogs, sheep, gorillas, parrots, other birds, rays, centipedes, you name it. A lot of different things in there. More dogs, more cats, more of a lot of different things. Just on the animal side. And on the human side, there are many cancers, aneurysms, any kind of implantable device, stents, artificial knees, implants, etc. All sorts of chronic conditions or long-running conditions like arthritis of the knee, emphysema, trauma to the brain, gunshot wounds, stabbings, separated shoulder, broken bones, multiple fractures, comminuted fractures, the fixes, orthopedic fixes for different situations, including many different fractures as well. So in this particular case, the information about it I could bring up and see here. This will just tell me the conditions under which the scan were taken and any clinical findings that they made that have been logged. And if I look at the right side, I can see the CAT scan or the CT scan, and I can see something's going on at about this red line level here that's not too good. One thing I can do is take the 3D model that our software brings all those layers back together, open that up, and look inside the body and see that tumor in 3 dimensions. And I can place measurements on it, do treatment planning, etc. And I can also visualize that with many different filters that will focus on the tissue types differently. So here's one. If I want to execute another cut, I can go ahead and dissect just that tumor and see that from anywhere along the tumor, zooming in or zooming out. If I undo my cuts and I change my filter, this will take a moment. So with this filter, if I open up the body again and look inside, this one focuses on soft tissue and blood vessels. So if I move my cut along here, what I'm really looking at here is the shell of blood vessels that are growing along that tumor. That takes a bit to resolve here. Right in this area is where those blood vessels are. Let's work here with a different filter. So here it shows it a little better. I can see that nodule of blood vessels growing around the tumor to feed it. So students could go in, they can do measurements. We could do a straight line measurement, for instance, or an area or a surface area or the amount of curvature on something or angles, so that students can do comparative cases between, say, a male and a female pelvis, or the size of a tumor and the excision that you would need and the location to do that if you were going to do a removal. Many, many different things you could do. I know that's a lot. That's more than my 10 minutes. Better open it up to let you ask questions.
All right, thanks. Yeah.
How do you deliver updates to the software?
That's a great question. First of all, the pricing that we quoted in the public bid and that we always quote is all inclusive of everything except the hardware warranty extension if you want to extend beyond the first year. So we'll extend it by up to 4 more years to a total of 5. Other than that, and that's optional, that could be added at any time or not at all. Whether or not you're under a hardware warranty, we provide the updates at no charge, and they can either be downloaded from the internet, or if you don't connect your table to the internet or to the network, we will send you a USB drive. So we'll send you a notice the upgrade is coming, and then ask you to choose. And at least at this time, if you choose a USB drive, we'll produce that and send it out to you. So that's included as long as you own your table. There also are no data licensing or subscription fees or data storage or data management or anything like that. We don't do any of that. You buy it once and you own it. Aside from whether you want to extend that hardware warranty, there's nothing else to buy. So we have other cool stuff that you can buy, but your table is yours as long as you own it. After maybe 6 years or so, there will come a point where the hardware that you bought in 2022 does not run the software or struggles to run the software that is available in 2030, whatever that might be. So at that point, you can either choose to upgrade your computer with standard upgradable things like graphics cards and potentially the central processing unit and RAM or memory, or we can provide a entire replacement computer as well. Those currently cost $7,500. Or you could just choose to keep running the version that you're on and happy with, and you wouldn't need to do those upgrades into the future if you chose not to do that. Does that make sense?
It does, thank you.
You're welcome.
How much is the extended warranty?
It varies by the model and how many years you're adding. So for the most, you looked, or at least in the public bid, I quoted our 2 life-size tables. So one of those is the classic, the other is the convertible. The convertible is the most expensive model. It's the one that flips up into a vertical position, kind of like a door, so that you can use it for upright presentations as well. If you extended the warranty it's about 55, a little under 5,500 per year to extend the warranty on that most expensive one. However, that pricing is based on doing it in a lump sum as opposed to year by year. It's almost double that if you did it year by year, or 9,000 a year. So the 4-year cost on the most expensive, so the longest extension on the most expensive table would be $21,840. Obviously, that's something I put in writing. In fact, I believe it's in the notes on your quote.
So then service calls on this machine after the year warranty expires, do you have a set rate per hour, and do you have historical service? Let's say, how much work do these things take? I mean, they're all individual machines, I understand, if they tip it over, it's broken. But
now let me just make it easy for you. We do that for free, for no charge, and you can just call us and we'll fix it for you. So as far as troubleshooting goes, so for most things, tend to be settings and software and user questions, and we can resolve those over the phone by remote connecting to your machine and resolve it that way. If it's a hardware issue, like a failed hard drive or something like that, normally that's something your IT team could replace on their own, but we'll walk you through it. If something is chronically a problem and isn't getting fixed by over the phone or over the remote connection by internet, we'll come out on site while you're under quarantine and fix it for you. We try not to do that a whole lot because we're coming from some other city somewhere, but if something's defective and it's not repairable, then that needs to happen. So in my year and a half, I've only had one time that's happened, and that was actually at Northern, in the UP at Michigan Tech. They got a defective touch screen from Samsung, who makes the touch screens. So we had to swap out. That's not something we would ask you to do. We might ask you to change out a card and PC or something if you were comfortable with it. Anyway, how often does that happen? That's the one time in a year and a half that I've had something that went to a hardware replacement issue. I did have a table that's 7 years old where the hard drive failed. So that was an older system, and they did have to replace the hard drive. That's 2, I guess, in a year.
So I have a follow-up question. So you mentioned that at some point the life of the hardware, the computer, I mean, since 6 years, will get to a point where it may not be able to run the software upgrades, and at that point we might have to replace the computer. And I think you said it was $7,500. Is that right, approximately?
So in 2021, that cost was $5,000, and the University of Michigan upgraded one of theirs in November. And in January, that cost went to $7,500. So that's really a result of computer components going up, say 40, 50, 100% in the last year and a half. So yes, definitely it went up. You could build the computer on your own. We'll send you the specs, or you could have us build it and send it to you for that cost that I mentioned. Who knows what that'll be in 6 or 7 years when you might want to or need to do that. There are less expensive fixes too, which would be use the computer you have, but upgrade the graphics processors to more modern and processors, for instance.
But I guess carrying that forward, the way I was looking, or the follow-up question I wanted to ask was, so if we chose not to purchase the extended warranty at $5,500 per year for 4 years, the $21,800, whatever, we didn't do that. In year 3, the computer crashed. Would it cost us $7,500 in year 3 to just replace that computer?
Yeah, if you just want to buy the whole thing, you can self-insure, for instance, to do that. And again, it's rare that the whole thing would just blow up and be done. It would be some part of a Windows 10 Pro computer. So it would be a $100 hard drive, a $300 graphics card, or whatever. I don't know those costs. So I know the hard drives it's a solid state drive, but still, they're inexpensive. skip year 2 and then put it under warranty in year 3. We don't block that, by the way.
Is there any other questions? Another question I have is, from a training standpoint, I mean, obviously, you live with this table, so you do a remarkable job. It's a very impressive demonstration job. You do it.
It's a very short one.
Well, it's very impressive. I mean, the technology, and what, you know, the graphics and all the different functions that you can do is really, really astounding. And I thought it was interesting that we're probably going to be one of only 5 or 6 high schools in Michigan that will have this. So, you know, obviously, we want to try to provide our students with this type of opportunity and exposure. But from the teacher standpoint, in train, I mean, how much training are the teachers going to need in order to really be able to fully understand how to operate this table? Is that something that is provided as part of the contract for the purchase, or just kind of explain that a little bit?
Yes, it's included. So we include what we call a full day of training, so 4 to 6 hours. My 2 cents worth there. We do an interactive online training that really came about because of the pandemic, and we just changed that to be our standard model. We also come on site and train, we charge for that. So the training is included. I think I included the interactive training since you put me on a public bid, which is fine, which is our standard. That's how we work now. Normally what I will tell customers is go through the interactive training. You know, I think they can pull that off maybe in 3 hours, but you would need 3 to 4 hours, really minimum, to be able to see and be exposed to all the functionality in the table. And then you're going to need some time to explore on that. So we have a whole library of resources to help people who do that, among which an Anatomos enthusiast group, which is hosted by the University of Michigan for our national group. So they're not too far from you. And by the way, every university in Michigan with the name Michigan in it, except the Eastern, is a customer, I think. And almost every other university in Michigan is also a customer. But UM, Michigan State, Michigan State, Western Michigan, Grand Valley State, Delta College, lots. A bunch of others I'm not thinking of. Adrian College, Rochester University, Oakland U is about to be, and you know, a lot. So there are people around who have the ability to share their knowledge, and we try and facilitate that. And the University of Michigan is the one that hosts it's not our enthusiast group. They have an enthusiast group which we support and they host on Facebook. But then from a formal standpoint, of course, we provide the on-site or online training. We have standing trainings, 1 hour every week, roughly 1 or 5 times a month at different days and times. And you're welcome to hop on those anytime. You don't have to reserve a time or pay for that or anything. It's free and you can jump on. So if you have a new staff member or you just want a refresher or you want to train a little before your official training, those are things you can hop on. We have 26 how-to videos on a private YouTube channel, 2 to 10 minutes each. How do you do this? How do you do that? How do you do this? How do you do that? There are a very good set of written resources, including our very granular user manual, which you can look up also by how do I do this, how do I use this, how do I use this tool, how does this work, how does that work. And we have a set of guided table activities where you can cover a content area like the eye or the ear or the brain, and it walks you through step by step how to go and find and identify the different structures and shows you which buttons to press and so forth. So when a teacher or a student is new, that can be a good way to kind of learn about the table while you're also learning the content area. We call those activities. And then we have over 215 curricular supports already built. So the teacher is covering the bones of the ankle or the salivary glands or the blood vessels of the kidney or whatever. We've already probably created that among those 215 different things. So you can use that or start with that and customize it to your own. You can also build your own from the ground up. Somewhat, as I mentioned, placing pins, coloring items, highlighting structures, etc., for the specific look and feel that you want to get. But we've created most of that already, and where we haven't, probably somebody else has, and so you can reach out to them. So there is a lot of support to go along with this. We recognize it's a lot of, there's a lot of capability here, and most people are only going to use some subset of that, but we try and provide all the resources we can to make it so you can use, get the very most that you can out of your investment. So how you use the case library. Again, there's 1,500 clinical cases in there. I've only seen a few hundred of them myself, probably. There's 11 breast cancer cases. There's 10 prostate cancer cases. There's 4 or 5 glioblastomas. We just looked at one. So, there's animals I haven't even figured out are in there yet.
All right.
There's the twins.
Just a quick question. So you say that there's 4 complete cadavers, then you have all these other cases. So there's several of these, like particular cancer that you have. So you can focus in on that specific area that may not.
Yes.
Have the cadaver. Okay. So one other thing is this is primarily presentation, correct? For the teachers present to the students. Are the students going in, engaging in it, or is that?
So we prefer that students do most of the exploring on their own. So, it's certainly a great tool for lecturing, and there's HDMI ports out, and you can cast over Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or put Zoom on there. Use it to cast to remote and hybrid learners. But students really do well with activity-based and project-based learning. So getting the students around the table to explore and locate structures and find that stuff on their own. They don't necessarily need to be lectured to. Everything's annotated in the table and with a guided exercise. They're going to do a nice job amongst themselves of exploring and finding what they need to find. At least that's the way that's been shown to improve student learning, including test scores and retention. So that's what we recommend, that students do get around the table and use it. And they're pretty natural with it, to be frank. They don't have any problem clicking stuff or touching stuff, because it's all touch screen driven. They all grew up with it, touch screen in their hand anyway, either a phone or a tablet or both.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right.
All right, thank you so much. So you are welcome to reach out by email or phone if you need to. Jim, I know, has that contact information, Jim Darga. So please don't hesitate to send anything you need, and I'd be happy to put anything in writing that you might need for the public record as well. Any other last minute questions here?
I think we're all set.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you very
I
much.
appreciate your time. I'm going to go ahead and terminate this meeting if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah.
Have a great day up in Brighton.
Good.
Thank you.
It's absolutely fascinating.
Like the technical term for that is super cool.
Super cool, exactly.
It's really, really amazing.
All right. So at this point, we now do have a quorum, so I'm going to just take a quick roll call for.
Yep.
So Ms. Reed?
Here.
Dr. Krebs? Here. Mr. Connolly? Here. Mr. Myers here. All right. Before we move to the next item, I am going to open it up for a call to the public.
Do you want to approve the agenda, just so we
Yeah,
have it, since we have a,
I motion to approve the agenda.
Support. I have a motion by Ms. Reed, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any further discussion? There isn't something in this particular agenda that provides for a call to the public, so I think we need to add that. So I would propose that we add a call to the public at the very beginning before the board action item regarding the purchase of the anatomage table.
Okay.
Right. So The motion on the table is to approve the agenda as amended with a call to the public at the very beginning. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 4-0. So that brings us to the call to the public. Is there anyone here this evening that would like to address the board? If so, this is your opportunity to do so. Seeing none, that closes the call to the public and moves us into then item 1, the board action item, the purchase of the Anatomosh table. Obviously, we've discussed this at the last meeting. We had a great presentation here a few moments ago. So do we have a motion? And by the way, we've been presented with the bids for the 2 different options, the 2 different versions of the table that we discussed at the last meeting. So do we have a motion for the purchase of one of those tables?
I move that we purchase the convertible table.
Support.
All right, so motion by Ms. Reed, supported by Dr. Krebs to approve the purchase of the convertible table, which is the stand-up version.
It can be both.
the
It
con-
can be flat or vertical, yeah.
Okay, any discussion?
So just as a reminder, then the convertible table can actually be moved then also.
Correct, as I understand
It's
it.
more mobile.
That's right.
Correct.
And that was the one that the administration had recommended.
That's what we were gonna recommend, yes.
All right, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 4-0. All right, that moves us to the next item, which is the item 2, the Spencer parking lot. Who would like to, Bernie or Scott, would like to lead off with that?
So where we were with Spencer, the parking lot itself, last we met there, the traffic consultant was here, my civil engineer was here and so forth. And we kind of talked about a lot of different things and presented a few different things. It really came down to wanting to, if you want to expand the parking lot, combining the bus, I'll call it this way, combining the bus and automobile traffic together as one and making it one large parking lot, or 2, which was, I think documentation was sent to you folks, relative to just keeping it the way it is, but expanding the parking lot. So there are different options that were given to you price-wise and so forth, which Bernie here and his team put together. I believe you received information on those? Yes? Okay. So it really comes down to, okay, great. If there's any more conversation or discussion or comments, I'm here to basically answer them if possible. I know the original, I'll say this, it's in my neighborhood, the ability to get all the cars off the street is just, it's astronomical. I don't think you'll ever achieve that. But adding parking does come very close, or at least knock on wood, that's how we feel. Also, the information that was provided you does not address adding a passing lane or doing anything to Spencer Road itself. This is purely on your property. If you want to go down that road, we certainly can explore it. Again, that would have to come back to the road commission and a few others for discussion and how we achieve that. It would be, having the initial conversations we had probably 2 years ago, it would be on the district's dime though, whatever we did as far as improvements to Spencer Road. I don't believe the road commission was looking to do any improvements on that road. Or at least that's what we were told.
Yeah, and speaking with Matt this morning, certainly, I think his recommendation at this time, based on board comments and everything that we've had over the last few meetings, that we would probably recommend going back to what we were planning, which was just to take off and replace Spencer's parking lot, but look at adding those additional 44 spaces onto that. I think we would also further recommend, or at least it's coming from me, that we at least study passing lane on Spencer Road. And so based on the numbers Bernie put together currently, doing that with take off and replace on Spencer, but then adding those additional parking spaces still is only like $1,000 more than what the bond budget was projected for. So we wouldn't really be touching anything in the contingency model at that point. What we'd be looking at, I feel, is that passing lane as part of the contingency dollars down the road after we take a look at it to see if that makes sense or not, or whether the road commission is even willing to entertain it.
Or we just do that passing lane to start with and see if that takes care of the problem.
Well,
That's the same kind of building, I understand. Passing lane is about the same as what we had set out to spend money in parking lot?
The passing lane's never been budgeted or even designed. I will say this, though, that I had heard, at least in my understanding, was that not so much the traffic going back and forth on Spencer as it was the pickup time and storing or all the automobiles that had to be off the road and parked somewhere. That was the bigger concern, if I'm correct.
You need a parking strip. Times have changed and it's not lots of whatever size it is. So the additional 40 spots you think are going to alleviate the problem? Don't we have that many right now?
I think,
Hardtack?
yeah, I think we're roughly there, and it has mitigated the problem to a great degree. But I don't think, as Scott had indicated, you're not going to get all of the automobiles off of the road, even with that. I just don't see that's just going to happen.
Temporary additional parking is what we would be asphalt, correct?
Not exactly, because some of that temporary is encroaching on our drain fields. So we're going to have to redesign it to some degree, and I know Andrew's already taken a look at that.
So how many spots do we have temporary now? We have an addition to existing parking.
I'm not sure how many.
Well, the unfortunate part is gravel, so it's not striped, so there's not really a count.
If it's parking, it's still temporary, but it still works.
What do you think
If it
is,
covers us or not, it doesn't cover us, and we're still not going to fix the problem. I don't want to spend $1 million.
Scott is estimating that he's getting 20 to 25 spots there, so
You guys want 40. So another 15.
at really no extra cost out of the bond.
For a parking lot that we needed to resurface anyways, right?
Correct. It was already scheduled to be
That's why
done.
it's in the bond to start with, was to resurface it.
Are you adding those extra spots to the south towards the road?
And that was, and you can't see this necessarily, but yes, I was going to challenge Andrew to do that. And basically to add, we added, in this diagram that you had, we had added on that area we were added down below, we only added parking on one side. And I said, well, if this ditch will allow, let's do both sides. So that's another 22 spaces. The area, you can barely see it, but over on this side where the gravel was put, it's onto the, it is into the septic field over top of. So we need to pull that back, but there are 44 spaces on that right-hand side because we are expanding it down this way too. So we're going a little bit beyond what's there in the north-south direction, but not going as far east. So, short of going in back and creating all kinds of parking elsewhere on the site, this is, you're now maximizing out while maintaining the separation that you put into play
In the last
bond.
So
iteration.
technically, you could prep this for asphalt and use limestone or something instead of 22A, and you could drive on it for a year and let's see if it fixes it too before you drop the asphalt. So just an idea. Because you're going to do the subsurface prep anyway, and you can drive on it, and it'll shed the water. And you don't have, what do we have for underground for there? What kind of retention do we have, and what kind of underground are we going to need to add to that to cover that additional space? Because that's more, how much more surface area is it?
That information I don't have.
Yeah.
I can-
So you take that water and you have to go somewhere with it. So, and the way the things work with the roads now, you can't dump it out on the road. You gotta,
Is it underground storm drainage at that point, or is it?
I believe that goes to the ditch, and the
They got
ditch
a
is
ditch.
maintained there on each side.
but if you notice the what they just did down by where they tore down the Pizza Hut, now they flooded out the dealership next door, which was gonna happen anyway. So they put more parking lot and just wiped out the dealership. They own the dealership. They own both of them. They bought the Pizza Hut. I watched them asphalt it, and I had years gone by, they flooded out the neighboring parking lot anyway. Now it really fills it up. So the question is, can we handle the capacity? Can we handle the overflow? Do we have to have a retention pond in addition to what we already have? And will the drains that we have in the culverts take the water once you start draining it? So
I think those are really good questions, and I guess my question for the team tonight is, are we just looking for consensus that we'd like to further explore that and see if that's
You wanna fix it,
possible?
yeah.
Or are we, because that's not a for action item, so we're not
No,
going to
it's-
spend the money.
No, it's,
What I'm asking for is basically you have two design decisions.
Right.
And one is with taking the lot, and doing the whole thing, or the other is let us now start to engineer and focus on expansion of this existing lot if we can and repaving it. And then I can come back and answer the questions about detention, retention, where's the water going, so forth. Right now, we're in limbo because I don't know which direction to go in.
So you're just looking for the direction.
Either one, A or B.
Right, and to that point, I think the question, there's a couple of different options that are potentially can be pursued regarding a major restructuring of the design, where you've got, the loop of the buses, which from what I understand, both of those are over $1 million if we're to go that direction.
That's
If that was
essentially-
conceptually what we wanted to do. Alternatively, if we were gonna go back to the original design and look at or pursue the prospect of adding the additional parking, and whether we phase it down the road, if we initially just go with the gravel and then maybe add the asphalt, that can be decided at a different day. But for purposes of the consensus, if we wanna just go in that direction with not a complete redesign, but look at the additional parking as an alternative. I mean,
Right.
that's-
The bottom line is we need a design decision so that we can actually design it and then get it bid out this fall. So we're kind of at a point where we can't be in limbo anymore. We kind of need to go one way or the other, and we can work on all the detail.
Have any grass left?
Uh,
Just an asphalt jungle now.
no, there's it's all going to be in the back, right? The,
Like I said, so, which is too bad. It is.
It's my understanding that the administration's recommendation is that we go with revising the original plan to just explore the 44 additional parking spots.
correct.
And it can be done too if need be. Well, as I
Next.
point out though, the budget, when they had got pricing on it, was it was under the bond application amount. The adding the spaces keeps us under the bond amount, or at least we believe it does. Keeps it
Which
under
was
the
how
bond
much
amount.
was that?
We won't.
545, I think.
Bond budget was 546.
So it sounds like we should go that direction and let them see. if they-
But we won't know until we bid it, but we don't know bid it
I
until we
think
get
we'll have
drawings.
to move on that.
I think so too.
Okay.
That's gonna help a lot.
Okay.
for the course.
Let's
Well,
So-
and I mean, they used to have one big parking lot and that didn't work. There were issues, lots of parent complaints and administrative complaints. So
I
I'm not sure that
I'm
going
concerned, no
back
matter
to
what we do,
15
we're gonna be still, but we gotta try something.
Yeah. Well, this is-
Half $500,000 roll of dice here, so.
Well, we're basically, if we go this route and the costs end up shaking out as, we're gonna be right where we had
Planned.
budgeted, for the bond application anyway. And then at that point, if it's still not working and we wanna look into, a passing lane down the road, that could be a completely separate conversation. 'Cause
I
it's
think we
not-
need green dyed asphalt though, so it looks like the tennis courts or something. I'm kidding.
Understand too, the majority of the cost is to replace and repair what's already there.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that's
which-
the bulk of the cost,
Which is
what we need to do.
necessary.
That has to be done.
which we're gonna do either way.
That has to be done.
All right, well, there you go. So,
Thank you.
Consensus. That moves us into, the next item on the agenda is for informational purposes, the project updates. So Bernie, you want to lead off with that?
I guess we have several things going on over the summer. Is there anything specific you guys have questions about? We have the indoor practice facility going, that's scheduled to be done probably toward the end of October right now is what it's looking like. The track at Scranton and the high school has been resurfaced and we need to set up a date to stripe it. Scranton, the carpet and its painting's being done. It's about 50% done right now. And then all the elementaries were in they're all the demos done for all the media center. The fourth, we're in the process of starting to rebuild everything. Everything right now, we got 6 weeks left. It's tight, but it's looking like we're going to be done.
Okay.
So, and then Miller's parking lot has been completed except for one little section that we're going to do when they shut down for a week in August.
One
So we're
question.
scheduled at that point.
You're bringing up the media centers. You're talking about the new STEM centers, STEAM centers / building of the STEAM centers.
Yes, the
Okay.
media slash, yeah. We
Okay.
demoed the media centers and
You're getting
Yep.
getting the STEAM labs in place.
correct.
Okay. Well, that way the board knows that it's not the media center rebuild. It's actually a upgrade to the STEAM centers.
So, and you said that those are all on schedule to be all completed before school starts?
Yeah, we,
Health accident.
well, the STEAM centers, except for what we've just started this week, which is the health occupation in the Scranton STEAM Center. Those will not be done until late October. So those will be going into the school year.
And that was known prior. That wasn't a construction delay or anything.
Something I would ask on the Health Ox and on Scranton is I want you to do a future coming type of thing, drawing and have it posted inside the buildings. So we have a blueprint drawing of the Health Ox program on the wall, coming November 22. And the same thing at Scranton for the kids to get them wound up on the concept that, coming November. And something, something neat, doesn't have to be super fancy, but where they walk in the door and they see it with an arrow or something. And okay, is that possible to do? Okay, all right, thank you.
Bernie, you indicated Scranton's carpet and painting is 50% complete. What about the locker situation? Do we know delivery or anything at this time?
The
or-
last time I checked, the lockers were be there in August. So, but those are that's deliveries of materials is an issue, and we've had a few that have at the last minute have turned out to not be able to be delivered per the time they told us. So I'm working on everything right now to make sure we have, as we get into all of these areas, I'm trying to get a handle and make sure that we have commitments to get all of the material delivered before the end of summer.
Delivered right in the middle of my class today.
Yep. Trying to get things going.
So let me ask you this: what's keeping you up at night that might not show up?
As of right now, everybody has indicated that materials will be here on time. The only thing that we know of now that's coming later is the window replacement at Maltby. So we're going to have to coordinate that during the school year to replace those dozen or so windows. We were hoping to get that done while the school's out, but I've talked to the glazer that's doing it, and we'll be going in after hours, and they'll pull one window and put the new one in, and it'll take a little while and probably work on Saturdays. And so that we're trying to work through that. I did see an email today on the Scranton lockers. It appears that the principal there is I got to find out when we're actually going to get them. It seemed like they were. Yeah, that's what we're shooting for them to get in August. I just hope they're here. I mean, it's they're scheduled, but I don't have a firm date, and we don't have a ship date, and so
he's completely fine if they don't arrive on time. They've already made contingencies for backpack, so he's not concerned. But obviously, we'd like to get him.
For example, at Spence.
Are the existing lockers already being torn out?
No, I was not planning on taking those out until I know the new lockers are coming. However, with this email from Bill Renner today, it appears that they're okay if we take the lockers out. But I don't really, we got to look at that when I find out exactly when we're going to get the lockers here. So I don't want to make a commitment one way or the other at this point. So,
And I'm a little. Oh, we've already made plans for that. So, but I'm a little worried about removal. And is the base coming out or is the base staying? Because I don't want to remove.
We've already removed. There were 5 sections of lockers that were coming out that were not going back in. We've removed those 5 sections so that we can carpet and paint those areas. Everything else is on a concrete base. So the lockers should come out and go right back on there. And I already, if something happens to the paint, I've already Classic knows they got to come back and touch up around the lockers potentially.
Okay, so it's
later date.
but it's a concrete raised base, so
Yep.
it's not okay.
Yep.
I was a little worried about just having open bases.
No.
Okay.
So
Um.
that's just like the lockers for Horning and Spencer that we'll be getting in sometime in the fall, and we'll be doing them after hours in the evening.
So those will come in the fall, and that's been the plan all along is to do
That's the way we
those.
bought it out. Yep. Right.
Hilton. And the high school flooring.
High school flooring they're in the second phase of the asbestos abatement right now. They have one more phase to go after this. It's slow going. They are putting down new flooring in the first area that they've abated. And then, so their still plan is to try to get everything north of the main hallway done this summer.
So they're still feeling confident on that.
I'm hoping they get the next, the part that they're doing the abatement on right now is a rather large area.
Mhm.
The last area is pretty small,
Okay.
but we still have some other demo to do, and I'm trying to push them to get another demo crew just to demo the areas. There's a few areas that we're gonna demo that are, do not have asbestos, so we don't have to go through that whole, they still put up plastic and everything, but they don't have to do everything else, the positive ventilation and all that stuff. Or negative air, rather.
Okay.
What's the timeframe when you think you're hoping to be done,
With
the high school flooring?
when school start? I
Right.
mean, we're pushing that. We're gonna be pushing it. It's a lot of work. So,
Up to the wire.
it's gonna be up to the wire.
So they're not gonna be stopping teachers to get back a week early, they're going right for Labor Day?
I guess see where they're at.
Well, that's-
It'll be a limited area that they'll be doing, so.
Well, that's kind of, when you have teachers returning back.
Mhm.
But you also have registration days, and it's typically when kids, especially freshman kids, want to walk around, it's a big building, it's, a little scary, they'll say they're not scared, but, to walk around with mom or dad or a friend is kind of important. Now, we've pushed those registration days to, going off the top of my head, I want to say maybe like August 28th, 29th, they're at the back end of the month. as far
Right.
as we could push them, so just asking that question because out loud, if we're having to use, like Scott said, the last 4, 5, 6 days, we may have to come up with a backup plan.
Okay. Yeah, they should have all the demo done by then. It'd be just placing flooring, so we'll have to figure out. I mean, the idea is that they're working east to west.
Correct.
So that last area would be over by the maintenance, was it maintenance and band and whatever those rooms are over there.
BCPA, behind the BCPA and we're going towards the pool.
Before you get to that.
Senior hallway side.
Right.
So,
Any other questions regarding those projects?
And one, so how much did it cost us on this remediation? Where are we at right now? What do you think the overage on that project?
the mediation was $91,000, I think, wasn't it?
That seems familiar.
Around 90, yeah,
And that's the
91,000.
work they're doing now that's quoted being done. It's not
Yep.
gonna be over that 91,000.
No, I had him quote it. So we did, because of the asbestos that we found last summer
Yep.
in that first area that we started at,
Yes, sir.
over spring break, I had them go through the school and they popped a tile every 20 feet.
I saw that.
We visually, so if you go through school right now and you see little places where a tile was missing, we had them pop a tile. They visually inspected it. If it appeared to be a bit asbestos, because you can, there's a visual inspection first. If it appeared to be, we had it tested. And when we did all the testing, we determined what needed to be abated so that come day one, when school was out, we were able to start. Because if you do asbestos abatement, you have to notify the state and you got to wait 10 days. So all that was done prior to it so that we didn't have to wait at all. So that was some of the pre-planning that we did so that we didn't have any. So then when school was over, we were able to, the day after school ended, we were in there putting up plastic, getting ready to take the tile out.
All right, anything else relative to the projects that are in the works? All right, that moves us to the InDesign portion of the agenda. There's a couple of the items, the back mechanical door replacement, and the Scranton Access Drive lot.
We recently met on the door replacement, went through it with Scott and Michael, and then also mechanical, and we're going to issue that in the next couple weeks. Again, that's just to update is the doors here, exterior doors, and then the large mechanical unit up on the roof, scheduled to be replaced. At Scranton Access Drive, that's ongoing, the design, that will then now be combined with Spencer, and those will be issued out this fall. It's the access road and so forth. And that's really the two that we are physically working on.
Yeah, so just as a refresh, the exterior doors on back were all part of the bond app, and they're all going to be set to the replaced with the district standard, which is what the main door is that you come through, that fiberglass FRP style door in that black color. So all of the doors, and I think there's 18, I think,
19.
around the building. A lot of doors you wouldn't even know, because like this door out here, and there's a door next to it, and there's a bunch of them that are being done. Also, the mechanical unit on the roof that does the upstairs, and then the entryway to the building that was scheduled to be done. It was oversized for the needs, so we are downsizing it to be more fitting for what's necessary and capturing those energy efficiencies as we go.
So the folks on the second floor of that building don't really,
It don't matter a whole lot anyway. I agree with you.
Going back to the doors, I will say too as well that the doors and frames themselves, and then in the front, there's the large openings and, all that framework as well is going to, because it's integral with the doors. So we just can't take the door and that frame around it, take the whole thing. So it is a little bit more expensive than just some door, extensive than just some doors.
And is the design of all of those other doors, are they all going to have the badge access? Because most of these
No.
doors don't, obviously.
They don't, no. We've gone through that with them, and it's remaining as they are right now, which is the primary entrance, and then are there
Shared services and then.
shared services, that's right.
Those
Yeah.
are like 3 bed readers here.
Okay.
And we can always add them if somebody feels we need to add one at a door
Yeah, so
at
far.
any time.
But I will tell you that there's many doors on Beck now that are not keyed or anything, and
Right. Oh, yeah.
based on security analysis by Officer Bell, there are some that we'll be rekeying so that there are more access points. But
What about the door triggers on these doors? Are they going to have any central station that the doors, if they're open, that we know they're open? That's been another issue, but they don't know they're even open.
yeah, that's never been put into
Talked
the
about.
design piece of it. That's a whole nother.
Because like on the
Layer.
alarm system at home, you open the door and it beeps, right? So these could be, with those magnetic sensors on them today, could be very simply triggered.
They could. We're just not. We're not wired for all of that.
So now with the wireless system, maybe let's put a note of that, because
Yeah,
we should know if the door opens.
That's something we can put on our list of possible future upgrades.
If a door's propped open, we'd know if it's stuck open,
Yeah.
Just tonight, I would certainly think if we're going to improve on this stuff, that's one of the areas we could improve on.
Yeah, it's certainly worth looking at. It'll be in place now. That'd be
The idea is if we had some kind of trigger on them that censored that they were open, and maybe wireless even now, it could be something real, because that stuff's getting cheaper, actually, some of it. Instead of hardwire and all that, we'll see. If we're looking at safety and security, that's part of it.
And you mentioned that we had looked at the doors to see, if we need new access points with Officer Bell, that I would be curious to know what other recommendations there are as far as.
Yeah, we can have those discussions in a non-public meeting. We can.
With respect to other aspects of security, like the strength of the door, shatterproof glass, bulletproof glass, those types of things, what are the standards that we're going to be designing to?
Well, we're not designing in any shatterproof or bulletproof glass at this time with these door replacements. We have shatterproof type film in various locations throughout the district. But as this project goes, it's a remove and replace kind of situation.
And most of the doors are actually solid doors versus with glass.
That's what I
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
when we said they're like the entry doors, they're the same material, just not the glass, except for those public spaces where you'd come in. But most of them are indeed a solid door, solid panel, especially in the back areas where you really don't see them.
Yeah.
So the security film that we have throughout the district schools now was put on after the doors were installed. And they're a local company right here in Brighton on the 23. So the board felt it necessary to add film on different doors, which allows us to do that at any time.
And that's a 3M product. It's not necessarily bulletproof if you're using the same one.
It's
Yeah.
shatterproof.
Shatterproof. You take a bat to it and you won't get through it. But to get to the bulletproof level, you're really very expensive and you're really into, different glass type even.
Yeah.
There's not a film that'll do it.
So it's to keep the person from getting in the building, not shooting through it.
So under this InDesign, we'll also add the Spencer parking lot will be under there,
Yes.
just as a Scranton Drive. We'll hope to put those all out to bid in the October, November timeframe.
Mike, on that, back up for a second, express
Sure.
point. So on the windows, how many of these doors have windows in them that we're putting up?
There's 18 doors, Scott, I want to say.
Well, it's primarily ones on what would be the west entrance that are glass now.
But it'd only be the ones with big windows. So, not ones with side lights in, that wouldn't be a bother. But so I think you ought to do it now and get a quote on the glass being coated. And they can do it now and put the doors up and then have them come coat them. It's over with. You have to do this building no different than any other. And
You
Well,
mean
we-
making the plans to put the film up?
to put the film on them for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, if we're gonna do the security thing and we're gonna do standardized type stuff like we did at the high school, this building's no different. to us
let's
than the
talk
high school.
about that offline because we have film in various locations,
Good.
in strategic locations. I won't. So,
Makes sense. Okay, but I'm okay though talking about it.
Yeah. and most of the doors with windows are the smaller ones.
We'll take a look at it. We'll take whatever direction.
Yeah, that's fine. We don't even cut the conversation. I'm good.
Right, so then the Scranton Access Drive, so that's looking to go out to bid in late October, is that?
That's this fall,
Yeah.
correct?
That would be the hope. That along with Spencer at this point.
And then to be done in next summer.
Some.
Summer's
Well, Scranton's already approved, right? We've already decided that's done, correct?
For the design to go forward, yeah.
So will we see drawings
We'll-
and have answers to questions?
We'll be
on
bringing those
Spencer
forward to you.
next
Yeah,
week?
so probably the next, when now we create the design development drawings, we can bring those and issue those up for you and take a look at them.
I know the one thing.
Regarding those?
Yeah, it wasn't on the agenda here. I know Matt was kind of interested in talking, or at least figuring out where we were, what the board wanted to do with Maltby. But we're gonna,
That's number 6.
Well, I use that as
I gotcha.
a potential contingency because it's not in the bond issue. And it's one of those where, okay, where does it fall in the contingency realm of things?
So, we've talked about the different options, the different drawings. I don't know that with only 4 of us being here tonight, it's probably something we should defer until more of the board members are here and.
I think so.
and
Yeah.
Dr. Outlaw is here. And have
Yeah.
a more robust discussion about the alternatives and what that price tag is gonna look like and how that's gonna eat into the overall contingency dollars. So I would suggest that we hold off on.
And we're fine with that. And I know we're running up on our time limit anyway. So,
And I think when we have that conversation, I'd really appreciate having some more input from the administration on all of the things that have been considered so far as uses for those contingency dollars, because I know we've talked about
I agree.
chillers and some other things, but I'd like to kind of bring it all back into one place so that we can see as we are,
yep.
putting things in order of what we'd like to do and giving priority to certain projects, what are we picking from?
Yep.
What has the administration prioritized? And then we can consider,
Yeah,
what
because
constituents think should be prioritized.
I think that we will go back through that exercise. As we'd obviously done it before as to what we wanted to investigate. Some of the information brought forward, we need to talk about ourselves as far as, say, the high school chiller. Now that we have a little more info and a little more dollar figure wrapped into it, those types of things may change our opinion on what and where.
Be helpful to have a ballpark. I understand just what approximate are we looking at?
Yep.
100,000, we're looking at a million.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's, as we narrow our list, we won't be able to put a dollar figure to everything on that list, but, even a ballpark. But as we narrow the list, the more high priority items, we'll definitely put, just a
So we know how many things we.
placeholder.
I think it
with
came in pretty clearly. The chiller was a couple $1 million, right?
Yeah.
That was pretty clear to me. And then I just want to share with the board that we don't want to lose sight of the academic items besides mechanical items that we can benefit, be it science labs, be it some other things that we could overhaul. And I just really would like to see opportunities for students besides just mechanics of things. So even on mechanic. So I'll leave it at that.
That's a fair statement. And when, we try to weigh all of that stuff as
I know
well.
that, but I
Yeah.
see some more we can do.
Oh, there's definitely.
There's always more.
I know, but as we charge into the future, these youngsters are going to need some help so that we can help them.
All right. Any further questions? No, we all good? All right. Thanks, everyone, for being here this evening, and this meeting is adjourned.
Shut it down.